You're natural, and you do it all so natural. You're so strong, and you show it anything. If you want it, it's yours. It's yours. You can have it all, yeah. Hey you, you're so beautiful. You're natural, and you do it all so natural. You're so strong, and you show it anything. If you want it, it's yours. It's yours. You can have it all, yeah. I look into my mirror, I love everything I see. Ain't no mistakes on me, no. I always remind myself there ain't no other me. Can't nobody else be. Hey, you're so beautiful. You're natural, and you do it all so natural. You're so strong, and you show it anything. If you want it, it's yours. It's yours. You can have it all, yeah. Oh, you can have it all, yeah. Hey you, hey you, hey you, hey you, hey you. Yes.
And welcome to this week's edition of Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura and friends. I want to say a special hello to all of our listeners around the world in Philadelphia and London, and a special hello to all my new listeners in Atlanta. So we're very excited to be expanding into that market. So hello to my new Downtown Hot radio listeners. So there's so much to talk about this week. So let's just get right into all the things people are buzzing about. So, of course, California has been dealing with the devastating wildfires this past week. Many noted celebrities have lost their homes, including Gerard Butler, Camille Grammer, and Caitlyn Jenner, and some of the Kardashians, and the death toll now is up to 23. And the three devastating wildfires are two that are in the south and one that is in the north. And they forced over 250,000 people to evacuate their homes. So it's really serious out there. Of course, my heart goes out to anyone who loses their home and their loved ones and all the things that are important to them. You know, our life is our home. But, of course, it's a little easier for celebrities who often sometimes have more than one home to rebound from a devastating situation like that than your normal working Joe or Jane. So if you want to send support into the LA Fire Department and their efforts to contain the fires, to give supplies and housing to the victims and people being evacuated from their homes, visit support LAFD.org. And I know it's the holiday time, but you know, if you're sitting in a home right now, you're a step above many people in California right now who don't have anything. So even a little something, even $5, can make a difference in someone's life. So give if you can. So now, of course, the entertainment world and just to all of us in general, not just from the world of entertainment, but anyone who grew up finding their strength and empowerment through superheroes and escapism through cartoon movies and all these great characters that inspire us not only as children but as adults. All of our heads are hanging down a little lower today as we commemorate the passing of Stan Lee, who passed away at age 95 this week. Of course, Stan Lee was an American comic book writer, editor, and publisher, but really he was more than that. He created our pop culture, and through his work, of course, he launched so many careers. You know, every big action star, superstar really owes a debt to Stan Lee, elevating the comic books to cultural influence. So Stan Lee was the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, and later its publisher and chairman. So Stan Lee co-created Spider-Man, the Hulk, Daredevil, the Fantastic Four, Black Panther, so Stan Lee created Wakanda, the X-Men, Iron Man, and Thor. Now let's just look at for a minute, through paying tribute to him, let's look at all the major Hollywood celebrities that have become hugely influential and bankable based on these movies. Like X-Men, Hugh Jackman's career skyrocketed from that franchise. Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s career not only had a resurgence and rebirth, but surged to its highest place that it ever was, even in the height of his career in the 90s, before he had all his battles with addiction and mental health, and for a minute there just was on the blackball list. And now let's look at Thor, okay, and films like Black Panther, which of course was also really important culturally, because Black Panther was the first superhero movie that featured an all-black cast, which it needed to happen a long time ago, but it just broke all records at the box office. It influenced fashion and was really a powerhouse. So these comic books that Stan Lee created really ultimately, as they grew and grew, launched the careers into icon status of so many celebrities. Where would Tobey Maguire be without Spider-Man? Like, it took him to a whole nother level. So really all these stars that are cashing, $10 million checks, they all owe a debt of respect to Stan Lee, because without him creating the architecture of the characters and the materials, all these movies that even, like, you look at Universal Pictures and how it's become such a marketing franchise. These concepts start out in comic books, and then they become blockbusters, and then you go to theme parks, and there's whole rides and merchandising. So Stan Lee really had the creative vision not only to create characters and plot lines that really engaged people and got them emotionally invested, but to create the baseline for huge marketing franchises. So, and no comic book writer had that kind of vision except for Stan Lee. And so before Stan Lee really revolutionized things at Marvel Comics, you had DC Comics, which was the main comic book franchise. And the DC comic book heroes, they were all perfect and one-dimensional, like Captain Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And they didn't really have personalities. But the impact that Stan Lee really brought to the world of comic books and pop culture as a whole is that he introduced complex characters with relatable humanistic qualities. Superman, his alter ego, was this kind of insecure, nerdy guy trying to get the attention of Lois at the office. Right? And so all these characters, like in X-Men, the one that Storm. right?
Yeah.
Right? Storm has this longing love for Cyclops, and there's that whole unrequited love plot between them. So he was the first. Stan Lee was the first writer.
I thought it wasn't. Rogue. Yeah,
Rogue.
'cause she turned Phoenix.
Yes. See, and so Stan Lee was really the first writer to really write plots.
No, wait, I got it messed up. It was Jane.
Jane.
What's her name? Oh my God, I know it was dumb too. Damn, I forgot.
It'll come to you during the break.
Wolverine was always mad.
Yes. So, but the thing is, Stan Lee was the first to really give these actors who eventually would play these roles texture, storylines, love, fear, insecurities, as they're still being a superhero, which really he was showing the important message that we might be strong on the inside, but on the outside, but on the inside, we're all vulnerable. We all have pain and struggle and things we're going through, and nobody's perfect. Mm-hmm. So, the mark that Stan Lee left, it will really never be replaced. There'll never be another creative genius in that lane like him. And of course, Stan Lee received the Hollywood Walk of Fame star in 2011, along with many other awards as well. So we just
I feel like they waited too late.
Yeah, I think he should have like 5 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But so I just think it's very important to pay tribute to the people who have really influenced our culture, and so we pay tribute to Stan Lee and all the careers he's launched, and all the little girls who look at Wonder Woman and feel empowered, and look at these superheroes and say, hey, I can be strong, I can be anything that I want, because we're all fighting our own battle in life, and so sometimes you need other people to draw your strength from and look up to and think, hey, one day I could be that, I could do this. So not only did he entertain us with the comic books and then ultimately the movies, but he empowered so many people through his work and motivated people and gave needed escapism to many people. So now today's show, later on in this show, we're going to be talking all about disco and the icons of disco. We have a sensational playlist for you. So we're going to get things kicked off for a minute with some Emotions, Best of My Love, because you always have all my love here. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about some fearless females who are making news in some magazine articles. So we're going to talk about Serena and Eva Longoria. So keep it locked into Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura and Friends. And we're just kicking you off. Get your platforms on and your glitter and your smile. And we'll be back right after this.
Discouraged, 'cause our love's no mystery. the same.
It'll never be the same, yeah.
You bring me up when I'm down.
Up when I'm down. Maybe
You're gonna change my life around.
yeah, yeah.
You bring me up when I'm down. You're gonna change my life around.
Shake it, shake it, shake it, groove thing, shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. Shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. Show 'em how we do it now. Let's show the world we can dance. Bad enough to strut our stuff. The music gives us a chance. We do more out on the floor. Grooving loose, our heart to heart. We put in motion every single part. Funky sound, wall to wall. We're bumping booties, having us a ball, y'all. Shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. Shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. We got the rhythm tonight. All the rest know we're the best. Our shadows flashing the light. Twist and turning, we keep burning. Shake it high, or shake it low. We take our bodies where they wanna go. Feel that beat, never stop. Oh, hold me tight, spin it like a top. Shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. Shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. There's nothing more that I like to do than take the floor and dance with you. Keep dancing, let's keep dancing. Shake it, shake it. Shake it, shake it. Moving loose, our heart to heart. We put in motion every single part. Funky sound, wall to wall. We're bumping booties, having us a ball, y'all. Shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. Shake it, groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show 'em how we do it now. Yeah. Shake it, show 'em how we do it now.
And welcome back to Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura and friends. I hope you're out there having a good time and shaking your grooves thing. So now if you want to call in live, you can dial 267-530-9384. So now we have to spotlight some fabulous females out there who are certain waves of empowerment. Well, these two ladies we're going to talk about always are doing that. But Eva Longoria, of course, phenomenal, beautiful, talented actress, recently told People magazine that she's going to make sure her son, Santiago Enrique, is raised knowing what the true meaning of what it is to be a feminist. And so she explained in her interview in People magazine that people overthink the word feminism when the reality is it's just about fair opportunities for all genders, and it means equality. So for me to be able to teach him women are equal to men is going to be a big lesson. It's not just about teaching him, it's about showing him. And of course that means showing him being a strong woman and maneuvering through adversity and not compromising your principles or integrity, not changing who you are, or compromising your principles. And of course, people think that only females are feminists, but there are many men who are feminists as well. And like she said, what that means is that you support equal opportunities and respect for women. And we're still in a day and age where there's a big difference in pay for an advancement between men and women. There's still so much sexism, and both direct and subtly, even in the workplace, and in interpersonal communication, and many people who feel entitled because of their gender to act a certain way. And that's one of the big things that we really, as a culture, have to strip away and chip away at, the sense that many men, not all men, but many men feel a sense of entitlement, that they don't have to have social niceties. They can just treat a woman any way they want because she's a woman and they're a man. And that really comes down to a lot of this stuff is taught and mirrored behavior. And so I think Eva really has hit the nail on the head with her own son, that mothers need to really be conscious not only of what they're teaching their girls about being strong and having self-esteem and not letting other people dictate what they can be and their esteem, but also we have to raise our boys who will later be teenagers and later be men in the workforce, how to treat women and to see women as equal. Because unless you're raised knowing that a woman is equal to you and being comfortable seeing a woman in positions of authority, maybe being better at you than some things, and getting promotions because of that, making the same amount of money and mentally feeling that she's entitled to that, all the things that we see on the workplace and in the worlds of entertainment and on sets and all that stuff is going to continue to happen. And I think it's also too siblings, family members, not just the parents, but I think we all have a responsibility to kind of look at how we're treating each other. Because oftentimes the mentalities that you voice in the home are what you voice when you go outside. So if you're not treating your siblings or your cousins or your aunts with respect, how are you going to be treating other women with respect? So I think that is really important. Everything starts in the home, and not everybody has the blessing of a calm and empowering and home life that's a sense of sanctity. So I think it's important too that we monitor who are the people that we're looking up to. Who are our role models? Are we looking up to men that empower women? Are we looking up to men that carry themselves with manners and respect, not only for themselves, but for others? So I think that's also important, that as parents and family members, especially when men when they're boys and finding themselves and their voice, that we also surround them with positive role models, and we also encourage them to look up to positive, strong, and empowered men who truly want to see the success of other women. Because all of that is learned behavior. No one is born a racist. No one is born sexist. These are learned and taught behaviors. So, and it's also, too, how are you carrying yourself in life? I feel, when you do have children, they watch and they mirror what's happening in the home. So if your mom is apologizing for herself all the time, or right, and mentally bowing down to her husband, well, that's going to transfer to how your son treats women outside of the house, and what he feels that they deserve because of what he's seeing in the home. So it's all interrelated. So I applaud women like Eva, who are making the conscious choice of, from a young age, putting positive gender role education with their kids, because that's the only way we're going to break the cycle, with sexual assault, with harassment in the workplace, with women feeling that their voices aren't taken seriously. I feel the day that the debate stops on equal pay is where we're finally getting somewhere. So we can't say that we respect women and we value women if we're not going to pay them equally. Or if they get into a point of authority where we're going to talk negatively about them or their qualifications, or just basically be resentful and passive aggressive that this woman is in this position of authority over us. We don't do that when men get promoted or become studio heads. But if a woman makes those same accomplishments, oftentimes because of gender bias and stereotypes, men will make some kind of a negative comment or jokes in the workplace, belittling her accomplishments. So I think that's the other thing, that we're never going to really break the cycles of gender discrimination unless we really see women as equal and are comfortable with their successes. So, I don't think in 2018 there still should be such a pay gap between men and women in the workplace. Now, spotlight.
We're doing the same work issue.
Exactly. Equal pay for equal work. Equal promotion if you earned it. And
but I have a friend, they do all this climbing the poles and everything. Mm-hmm. And they saying, well, if a female want to be out here doing that, why don't she climb the poles as well? And she's not doing that. And a lot of the guys saying, okay, she getting paid like us, why she not doing what we're doing? Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay.
I was like, wow. But a lot of people saying that though. So if you're not going to do what they do, then should be that. So don't get that type of pay for if you don't compose.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever the position is, if everybody's
if you pick that position
and you have to put the work in.
Yes.
And if you're doing the work well enough to earn a promotion, you should not get it just because of your gender. If you do get it, your peers should be comfortable with it because you're qualified and you earned it. So now, shifting to another fabulous, empowering female who I love. But so let's talk about Serena Williams. So in magazine news, now Serena Williams is always someone who kind of goes against the grain and beats her own drum, and always has. So that's one of the things I love about her. I might not agree with everything she says, particularly some of the things she said about men, but that's a whole nother show. But, Serena has broken so many doors, so many boundaries, of course. And the 23, a Grand Slam winner. I mean, first of all, just that alone. I mean, the woman is a powerhouse on the court, and, of course, in fashion and entertainment as a whole. And it's important to have women with strong voices out there. I really feel that she's the Billie Jean King of this generation. So she currently is on the cover of GQ magazine in this really cute black turtleneck bodysuit with a Chanel belt. And so it's interesting. So GQ named her the Woman of the Year. But what's causing controversy? Yeah, here you go. So on the cover, the word woman is in quotes. So now for those of you who may or may not know, any time you're talking about something and you say, oh, so-and-so, quote, went here. Or, right? Okay, or it just, you're putting a word in quotes within something. Not that it's a quote that somebody said, but you're putting the word itself in quotes.
Yeah.
That's insinuating skepticism. Basically, it's a way of throwing subtle shade. Jane, said, quote, that she won awards.
Yeah,
all right? Or, Jane said she, quote, went to Harvard. Okay, but we've never seen a diploma, right? It's a way of subtly saying that what
is she only
so yes, exactly. So everybody on Twitter and all over social media has been buzzing and clapbacking at GQ and basically saying, look, are you throwing
but ain't GQ was always a man cover?
It is, but once a year they pick a Woman of the Year. Yes, so they picked Serena. But then people thought that they were throwing shade at her by putting quotes around the word woman. Now, of course, in our previous show, a couple weeks ago, we talked about
I see it.
Yeah.
And it X's out men.
Right. So we talked about the power of words and thinking about sometimes, unless you express yourself right, your intent and what you're communicating can be two different things. So to really be careful of wording, because wording has power. So now, of course, this has touched on a nerve in Serena, of course, because throughout her career, Serena Williams has
But it's already out now.
Yeah.
It's like nothing you can do about
Yeah.
it
once it's out there, and that's the other thing why you really want to be careful when you put
Is
things
she
in
mad or
print.
the public mad?
Well, it's more the public,
Okay.
but Serena has come out in interviews recently talking about in her career of over 20 years in tennis that she's often been bullied for her physical strength and appearance and accomplishments, and that people have called her man or transgendered.
Yeah, I could believe they would say that because I was like, damn, she Diesel. And that's something like Wendy Williams, everybody still keeps saying, that's a man. Why? And when I showed them older pictures, I was like,
see, that that really gets back to what we were just talking about sexism.
Yeah.
Because, and narrow mentality.
It's more
Yeah.
stronger than her.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
They work out. You can be, it don't matter what size, whatever you do, you work out, you don't, you do this, it's always something.
Right. But what the issue here is people are trying to say in the past and throughout her career that because Serena is muscular and she is compatible to a lot of men in tennis because she's also played mixed match tennis.
Wow, that's dope.
Yeah. But the thing is, people have tried to say that she's not a woman or she shouldn't play women's tennis because she's buff. and she's
She
had
work out. That's
right,
dedication.
exactly.
Running.
That says you're winning, but you know it gets to the genesis of
Tennis is hard.
and tennis
Like
is
to run and try to hit that ball. Like
yeah, it's hard.
It's not
And
easy.
it's
like,
not
it look
easy.
like okay, yeah, I can do that.
You're just
but
running
no,
around
you
hitting
can
a
spread
ball.
ankle,
Yeah,
knee up,
and it requires
everything.
a lot of
Yes.
hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
But the issue here really is that people are trying to shame her for her accomplishments, which if you take down the layers, it's really
That's
saying
true.
that you're masculine if you're strong. That a woman can't be feminine and strong at the same time and accomplish and out-accomplish fellow men, and if she does, somehow that means she's less feminine.
Yeah, she's
So
killing the men. That's
yeah,
why.
and she's killing everybody. Period. And the thing is, we need to be able to raise our daughters confidently that if they want to be super athletic and buff, and that's their passion and their calling, that doesn't make them any less of a woman. It makes them fabulous. And we also have to raise our sons to embrace and accept all types of women. Not every woman is, the heels and not athletic. There are many women who draw their esteem and their empowerment from their athleticism. And Serena, of course, is not only a powerhouse athlete, she's a designer, she's a fashionista, she's been in Vogue magazine several times. She's known for her fashion and her confidence, and I think it is really sad when we can't just acknowledge all her accomplishments and say, daughters look up to her and she's a fearless female. We have to tear her down, because she's making men feel insecure with her accomplishments, which really is the issue, and that's their issue, not hers. So what you're saying is if a woman becomes physically strong past a certain point, she should apologize for it?
No.
All right, that's ignorant on so many levels. So now what's interesting about this is that the cover was actually handwritten by a Virgil Abloh of Off-White, who has styled everything in quotation marks lately that he's done with Serena, including her U.S. Open Nike apparel. So many people felt it was in bad taste, since Serena has been open about the fact, like we said, that over the past 20 years, she's been basically shamed by men for her athleticism. And of course, in part of that, she had said that it took her a long time before she came out about that, because she didn't want to lose deals or opportunities. But clearly, since the gentleman who painted the cover, right, the words on the cover, knows Serena, works with Serena, it wasn't coming from a shady place. But where I do find fault is in the content editors at GQ, because when they're blocking out the magazine, nobody stopped to say to this gentleman, you know what, having the word woman in quotation marks might be viewed in a different way. Let's maybe go another direction. And of course, Virgil clearly didn't mean anything by it. But like we say, we don't always know the context. So it's really important that we do really think about what we say before we put it in print. I mean, none of us are perfect, but you really want to think about the message that you're sending out when you're putting something in print, and you don't know how that might be tapping into something that somebody's sensitive about. So now, in other magazine news, it's always something with this current administration, and very rarely is it something positive. But CNN just filed a lawsuit with the Trump administration. So they're suing Trump and some of the high-end legal people in his administration because last week at a press conference, one of the reporters was there covering the press conference at the White House, and asked us some questions, and then Trump and this reporter got into it for a minute back and forth, and so Trump actually had an aide pull the microphone out of the CNN reporter's hand.
You don't like nobody.
Yeah,
period.
So basically, this man doesn't want anyone saying anything different than his
They
opinion.
want to applaud. He want everybody to applaud him.
Yeah, exactly. And see, it's not a dictatorship; it's a democracy, which I think our current president has missed that message. So the suit.
Be nice, and people will have something nice to say.
Exactly. So the suit alleges that the White House is infringing upon his First Amendment right of freedom of the press, and if left unchallenged, the actions of the White House could create a dangerous, chilling effect for journalists. Because basically it's saying that,
that's their job. He cannot do anything. Like, get out of here. That's when they need to really impeach him. He's
right,
doing too
much. And the thing is, we don't want a precedent set that journalists whose beat is politics and covering elected officials, that if the journalist asks a question or says something that within the realm of politics and the topic, that they're going to lose their press credentials because they're pointing out contradictions of an elected official. So, that's
They're
not
getting the details. That's what the people want. They're not just finding it out for themselves.
Exactly, and that's the whole point of
the people want to know
of
everything.
a press conference is to ask questions, to debate, and to get into it. So, I mean, sadly, I'm not surprised because our president hasn't shown respect for people's constitutional rights or the Constitution or the limits of the Constitution. So it really doesn't surprise me
His wife want to fire somebody
that Trump is really, doing this. But I think we do need powerful media organizations like CNN that when the current administration is trying to take away free speech, trying to question the legitimacy of all media and anybody who disagrees with him, which is that's a very dangerous precedent to have. You really need people to stand up. So I'm going to be interested to see how this evolves. And of course, we'll be bringing you updates as this story evolves. So, and so the journalist was, CNN journalist was Jim Acosta. And so now he's had all of his credentials stripped just because he didn't agree with the president. So, but here on Style and Empowerment Chat, we have free speech. So when we come back, it's really crazy. So again, we just had the elections and the midterms, and these are the things that we don't want to take for granted. We have to vote. We have to speak up. We have to get involved. We have to protest, especially when you.
So they want to let him do 4 years. How long he been in here? I don't even remember.
He's been in too long. It's been about a year and a half.
Now his wife want to fire somebody.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that the impeachment train starts rolling because I mean, the fact that we now have a president that
That won't
doesn't even respect the boundaries of the Constitution, probably never even actually fully read it, is a scary thought.
He just got restricted from not being at the president place, right? But he's still working other places doing press.
Yes,
Oh,
but
okay.
but he just got stripped of his White House credentials. But the thing is, this particular reporter, that's his beat. So
every press going to sit there and be quiet now.
exactly, and that's what's going to happen because that's going to now. I think comments should choose a different reporter ASAP and see how the White House report. Okay, so Manny Moyer says, if it is okay to comment, yes it is. We welcome all of our listeners and viewers' comments. So Manny said, I think CNN should choose a different reporter ASAP and see how the White House responds to the new person.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that would
I mean,
work.
I think they should
And
do.
if
I
they
think
do
they
it
should
again-
do both. I think they should have a new reporter to show that they're not backing down, but they should still pursue the lawsuit because, of course, this person that they send is going to be more tender-footed and not ask hard-hitting questions
Exactly.
because then they're afraid of getting kicked out, and we need people who are going to, call our president out on all of his BS. So, we don't.
He got to go.
Yeah,
He don't
like
want
yesterday.
Nobody had no
But
choices.
the very good point, Manny. But I think really more so than ever before, it's really important that all of us as media, unite together to not buckling to being yes people, because we're afraid. So more so than anything now, we need the truth barometer of the media to really honestly reflect what's going on.
Right.
Not to say that they haven't, but I'm just saying that now isn't the time to be afraid. Now's the time to dig our heels in and really stand up even more. So, on that note, we're going to dip back into our fabulous disco playlist. So we're kicking this break off with one of my favorites, Kool and the Gang, Get Down on It. And when we come back, we're going to recap the People's Choice Awards and talk all about what's trending and going on in the worlds of fashion. So keep it locked into Style and Comic Chat with Laura and friends as we get down.
Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Tell me. Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Tell me.
Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it.
Come on and
Get down on it. Get down.
do. You wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Tell me.
Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it.
Come on and
Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it.
How you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall.
Get your back up off the wall.
Tell me, how you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall.
Get your back up off the
'Cause
wall.
I heard all the people saying,
Get down on it.
come on and
Get down on
if
it.
you really want it,
Get down on
you
it.
gotta feel it.
Get down on it.
Get down on it.
Get down on it.
Come on and
Get down on it.
baby, baby,
Get down on it.
get on it.
Get down on it.
I say, people, what you gonna do? You gotta get on the groove if you want your body to move. Tell me, baby, how you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall.
Get your back up off the wall.
Tell me, how you gonna do it if you really won't take a chance? by standing on the wall.
Get your back up off the
'Cause
wall.
I heard all the people saying,
Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it.
when you're dancing,
Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it. Get down on it.
sha-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo.
Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get out? Oh, what you gonna do?
Get your back up off the wall. Dance. Come on. Get your back up off the wall. Dance. Come on. Get down on it.
Come on in,
Get down on
if
it.
you really want it,
Get down on it.
you gotta feel it.
Get down on
Get
it.
down on it.
Get down on it. Get down.
Come on in,
Get down on it.
baby, baby,
Get down on it. Get down.
get on it.
Get down on it.
How you gonna do it if you really don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall.
Get your back up off the wall.
Tell me, baby, how you gonna do it if you really won't take a chance? By standing on the wall.
Get your back up off the wall.
Listen, baby, you know it. Oh, when you're dancing, yeah, you show it. Oh, when you move, 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 you know it. Oh, when you're dancing, yeah, you show it. As you move across the floor,
Get down on it.
come on in.
Get down on
If
it.
you really want it,
Get down on it.
you gotta feel it.
Get down on
Get
it.
down on it.
Get down on it.
Come on in,
Get down on it.
baby, baby,
Get down on it.
get on it.
Get down on it.
Sha-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da.
Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get out? Oh, what you gonna do?
Get your back up off the wall. Dance. Come on. Get your back up off the wall. Dance. Come on. Get down on it.
Come on in,
Get down on it.
if you really want it,
Get down on it.
you gotta feel it.
Get down on
Get
it.
down on it.
Get down on it.
Come on in,
Get down on it.
get down on it.
Get down on it.
While you're dancing,
Get down on it.
get down on it.
Get down on it.
Empowerment Show, Laura and Friends. So we're right in the middle of our fabulous disco playlist. So hope you're out there in the groove and feeling good. So now let's talk about what's trending and happening in the world of fashion. So, of course, off the top of the block here, I want to spotlight. You can check out my pages for this, but so many usually standard size retailers are now catering to plus sizes, which is fantastic. So, of course, Express, which never ever carried plus sizes. 3 months ago, they launched their plus size collection, and in very limited stores, it's available. Here in Pennsylvania, the closest one that it's available at is King of Prussia. So they are testing the market at some of these stores to see if people are going to buy the product. And H&M recently, I'd say within the past year, they've started in a limited capacity carrying plus size. And New York and Company, they've always gone up to an 18, but usually it's mostly online. But they're starting to stock more of the plus size merchandise in store. But what I really like now that I'm starting to see in many of these retailers is that they're thinking in a forward moving mindset and in what's happening today, and not the thought of yesteryear in merchandising to separate the plus women from the misses section, or straight sizes or standard sizes, however you want to categorize it.
Never noticed they always had men all sizes.
Yes,
but never
but
the women.
Exactly.
Why
they
is that
didn't?
cool?
They didn't have the big department or the plus size.
No, they
male
don't have it.
department.
It's just
always
all the sizes.
It's all the
That's it.
sizes. But some idiot, some prejudiced, closed-minded idiot,
Wanna say
years
plus.
ago.
You don't need to say that.
You
Just
don't need
have
to
all the
plus.
sizes.
And exactly. Just say. In fact.
It's crazy.
Express doesn't even in the store, which I love, they aren't even using the word plus.
That's good.
They just say right there on the windows, sizes 0 to 18.
Right.
Which that is really how it should be. We don't need to sub-label ourselves. I don't want to feel like I have to go to the other side of the store to find fashion.
Fashion Noble did
Oh,
it too.
right?
They just added
Yes,
up.
and the thing that's great that I'm seeing in the Express store is that they're really now relating to all women in the same way. Because, every curvy and plus-size woman out there listening and watching knows when you go into a store that doesn't really sell to you, they treat you subtly in a different way. So they're not quite as friendly, or they don't ask you as readily if you need help because they don't think that you're there to buy. So I really love that I'm starting to see is them not only welcoming the commerce of plus women, but actually welcoming them in the stores and being friendly and attentive. And that's so important because we really, if we're going to break prejudices, it's all about mindset. So, hats off to all the previously standard size retailers who are slowly starting to open up to include plus sizes, not just online, but in the stores where it really matters. So, of course, I say over and over again, change doesn't happen unless we fiscally get behind the change. So women go out to the stores. We were asking for more choices. So when it's given to us, we have to show up in numbers to these stores, not just online, because otherwise they're not gonna stock it on the shelf. So the buying, the power of the dollar. That's really what makes change. So now, in other fashion news, Celine Dion, a powerhouse icon and vocalist, is the latest celebrity to launch her own clothing line. So what's interesting is she's actually launching a unisex clothing line called I think you pronounce it La China, and it's wait, hold on. That's Celine Unier. It's see her name, and then it's UNUNU.
She'll forgive you.
Yeah, she'll forgive me. All right, you can look it up. Celine Unier, or however you say it. I mean, it's a pre-existing brand, but
it sounds nice.
It sounds nice, right? I'm like, could you partner with a brand that's easier to say for brand recognition? But the designs are meant to liberate children. This is her whole mindset with the collection. So it's meant to liberate children from the traditional roles of boy, girl labels, and enable younger people to grow on the values of equality within freedom, to strengthen their own power based on mutual respect. So hence her line is androgynous. So it's tops, bottoms, dresses, and accessories in a black, white, gray, and yellow color palette. And it's for babies and kids all the way up to size 14. And the price point is from $20 to $290. Which, yeah, that's pretty reasonable. I mean, of course, I wouldn't buy a child clothing that's $290 because kids grow so fast. Yeah. It's just throwing the money away. I mean, I personally don't understand. Like, there's now some baby fashion and toddler fashion is just totally revolutionized. You have so many designers like Ralph Lauren and Versace making kids' clothes that is so sensational. But the thing is, I know it's a status and all, but I feel it's really throwing money out the window to spend that level of coin on kids' clothes because they're just going to get it dirty, they're going to outgrow it. So I just kind of feel like it's a waste of money to spend at that level. But you know, if you can and it makes you happy, you know, go for it. So now, in other fashion news, paying tribute to another sensational woman, an icon, and empowering female. So, of course, the People's Choice Awards were just over the weekend. I was all set to recap the fashion, and there's nothing worth recapping there. I felt like everybody dressed way too casual, and there was just a lot of fashion mistakes. So there's not really a ton to say there on the fashion of the people in the audience. But there is a lot to say about the amazing winner of the Fashion Icon Award, Miss Victoria Beckham. Or Bex, as they call her, Posh Spice. So, of course, Victoria Beckham rose to fame in the 1990s as a member of the girl power British pop group The Spice Girls. And the Spice Girls' debut single in 1996, hard to believe it was that long ago, A Wannabe, was a #1 single in 37 countries, and the Spice Girls to date have sold over 85 million records worldwide, which is an amazing accomplishment. And of course, Mel C and Scary Spice and all the ladies have gone on to do many successful projects in entertainment and music. Now, Victoria was nicknamed Posh Spice because of her love of high fashion, even at a young age. And in the past decade, Victoria Beckham has become an internationally recognized style icon and fashion designer. In August of 2007, Beckham launched her first of 20 fragrances that's just so amazing. And such an accomplishment in 10 years. Now, keeping in mind all the things that I'm going to be listing today, she's pretty much accomplished in 10 years. She makes me feel like I'm slacking. So her first fragrance was called Intimately Beckham. And in the September of 2007, so the same year, so August was the fragrance, and in 2007 she launched her cosmetic line called V Sculpt. So how many of us can say they launched a fragrance line and a cosmetic line within a month of each other? That is really badass. So in September 2008, Victoria Beckham launched her clothing label, and her line is now stocked in over 400 stores worldwide. And Victoria Beckham, literally, though she was married to a very prominent and influential husband, of course, had her financial backing from all the things she had accomplished in the music world. But though she might have had a leg up financially in the beginning, she literally built her brand up from the ground up to become an international corporation. Now, her first line was in 2008, and her line really is about empowering women through fashion. So in her speech, she really talked a lot about how she wants women to feel strong and fearless and feminine, and that anything is possible. So Beckham has said in the upcoming years that she plans to diversify the brand, which to include not only clothing. Right now her branding covers clothing, handbags, sunglasses, right? So many things. But now the next thing that Victoria Beckham wants to conquer is the world of skincare and additional beauty products. So I do not doubt that now in the years to come we're going to have an amazing skincare line from Victoria Beckham. And at the beginning of her line, when it launched, there was a lot of naysayers. People really didn't give her really the props that she deserved, but she had to earn it too. And now all of her celebrity friends clamor to her shows and wear all her designs, and Victoria Beckham actually has worn nothing but her own designs for the last 10 years in all of her public appearances. And of course, her and her husband David is as much a fashion icon as Victoria Beckham is, and really in all senses, both in business, fashion, imaging, they are each other's equal and are a real powerhouse couple. And David Beckham is still hitting all the major magazine covers, even after retiring from soccer. And I actually would love and would be totally there for a men's collection by David Beckham.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, could you just imagine how fabulous that would be?
He's sponsored with H&M though. Wait, when he was on a commercial?
Yeah. I think he's been the face of many brands, Versace, Armani. He's been the spokesperson. Oh my gosh. So, and with all the friends they have, and of course they were at the royal wedding, and he's good friends with George Clooney. So, I mean, if David Beckham came out with a menswear line, I think that would just corner the market. So, if you're listening, there's a little food for thought there. So, and now we're going to continue on our musical journey through the world of disco. And when we come back in just a little bit, we're going to talk all about the importance and evolution of disco music and the groundbreakers and icons within the genre. So keep it locked into Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura and Friends, and we'll be back after the musical break.
What you find
exist. I'll surely miss your tender kiss. Don't leave me this way. Come on,
welcome back to Stone Empowerment Chat with Laura and friends. So we are now deep in our disco pocket. So I had a little mood change. So I got my boa going and my disco light. So we can't talk about disco and not have the lights and the feathers going. So let's dive right into the genre that people often trivialize, but was very important and was the foundation to many of musical genres of the 90s and 2000s. So disco was a genre that grew in popularity in its roots from Philadelphia and New York City, and really came to popularity through the LGBT, African American, and Latino demographics. So disco really first started as a subculture and then really became the definition of culture in the 70s and 80s and became a phenomenon. And now it started in the urban nightlife scene, and disco was initially like a rebellion to all the rock music that was really popular in the 70s. So several dance styles, disco influenced so much of culture, which we're going to go through here, but one of the main ways that disco influenced culture was through dance. Of course, it was dance music, and many dances were created from the phenomenon of disco music. So we had the hustle, the robot, the bus stop, YMCA dance, so many dances that came from the phenomenon of the disco music. So, as we said, disco is rooted in Philly soul, funk, and Latin music, and it's layered with strings, horns, electronic piano, and guitar. So many of the biggest disco hits really had strong bass guitar as the riff and hook of the song. So now let's talk about some of the many influential, iconic acts that really defined and pushed disco to the influential level that it became. So we can't talk about disco music without talking about the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, Casey and the Sunshine Band, the Village People, Chic, the Commodores, Earth, Wind and Fire, Gloria Gaynor, and of course the Village People. So disco became so influential in its heyday that even mainstream artists that were more pop and R&B, like let's say Diana Ross, actually made some disco records. Of course, Love Hangover and Ain't No Mountain High Enough, which had a little disco feel to it. So of course, musicians, they set trends, but then of course, in order to stay current and relevant, sometimes people who aren't from that genre will jump in because that's what's hot, what everybody wants to hear. So now let's talk about some of the major hits from some of these artists. Of course, the Bee Gees, we were just listening to Jive Talking, but they did all the music for the Saturday Night Live soundtrack, which we're going to talk a little bit later about the influence of disco in film culturally. But Staying Alive, Jive Talking, More Than a Woman, How Deep Is Your Love, or so many major hits that the Bee Gees had. Of course, Donna Summer, Bad Girl, Hot Stuff, Heaven Only Knows were some of her huge hits. I Feel Love, Casey and the Sunshine Band, of course we just heard one of their big hits, Give It Up, Shake Your Groove Thing, so many hits Casey had, and the Village People, of course, the YMCA dance, and the Village People, though not all the original members are still in the group, but they still tour all over the place, And now, of course, the Commodores, who's lead singer and one of the main songwriters of the Commodores, was Lionel Richie. How he got his career started. And so, of course, some of their big disco hits were Lady, Brick House. And then, of course, Lionel Richie then went solo in the 80s. And the rest is Grammy and icon history. Of course, Lionel Richie went on to have so many hits like Hello, Dancing on the Ceiling, All Night Long. But he got his start in the disco group, the Commodores in Georgia when they were in college. And now some other iconic disco acts, Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, Dancing in September, so many amazing hits Earth, Wind and Fire had. And of course they were a group that was really known for their musicality and really the lush sounds that was in their music. And then if you want to talk about Chic, okay, so Chic was produced by Nigel Rogers, of course, bass guitarist. And now Nigel actually wrote their big hit, Freak Out, which was in response to being on the guest list of Studio 54, which we'll talk about in a second. But he was trying to get in to the club. He was a guest of Grace Jones, and the security shaded him in the group and wouldn't let them in. So they went around the corner and they were venting and jamming with their instruments and came up with the riff to Freak Out. And they were actually saying the original words were something else that starts with an F and off. And so then they made it radio friendly and it became one of their biggest hits. And Nigel Rogers went on to not only have just a successful solo career as a guitarist, but also as a producer. And he actually produced many of the hits off of Madonna's first major album, Like a Virgin, and worked with Prince and so many icons. And of course, Gloria Gaynor's big hit, I Will Survive. And disco music really was about bringing people together through a celebration of dance and music. And the thing I love about disco music too is all of it is about love and dance and fun and unity, and really has contagious beats. And so, of course, disco music also was a key influence in the development of electric dance music that would become popular in the 1980s, and house music. So disco and house music, they're like sisters. And a disco is, the word disco is derived from the word discotheque, a term used for nightclubs in Paris. Now, let's talk about all the ways in which disco influenced culture. So first off, let's talk about the influence in film. So some of the iconic films that really blew the disco movement to an explosion level was Saturday Night Fever, starring John Travolta, Can't Stop the Music, starring the Village People, Thank God It's Friday. Donna Summers actually had a cameo in that movie. And Xanadu, starring Olivia Newton-John. And all of these films, the backdrop was the nightclub. And so, of course, Saturday Night Fever really just influenced culture in so many ways. And you had the surgence of dance schools and people wanting to learn all these disco dances. And so, of course, everybody wanted to wear the white suit. So disco really influenced fashion. But, let's talk about also the influence of the disco nightclubs. So back in the late 70s and early 80s, Studio 54 and the Roseland Ballroom and Copacabana nightclubs were the clubs in New York City. Of course, Studio 54, it's not like now when celebrities go to clubs, you know, they want their own room and they want their riders and their bottles and their champagne. The celebrities who came to Studio 54 back in the day, they came to really have a sense of anonymity and mix and dance and rejoice with the thousands of people that would be packed into these spaces. So you would see Sylvester Stallone, and you would see Michael Jackson, and you would see Diana Ross and Liza Minnelli, and all the huge stars of the day, you know, in the dance floor upstairs or in some secret room and whatnot, and oftentimes without their entourage, without security, just their dancing and mixing with the people. So, of course, Studio 54 was also known for its lavish parties, one of which they actually brought a horse into the nightclub. So Steve Bell and Ian Cohen, who co-owned Studio 54 before it went out of business for tax evasion. That's Uncle Sam always finds you. You can't hide from Uncle Sam. So, of course, Studio 54 was known for its elaborate themes and production value, and Bianca Jagger, at the time Mick Jagger's wife, you know, she famously came in riding in on this horse and this toga. So Studio 54 really took nightlife and the entertainment value of nightlife to a whole nother level that had never been done before. And you had a whole generation of young adults who were excited to go out and dance and be with their friends. And of course, it was all about the fashion. So not only the films that featured disco, like Saturday Night Fever, but the genre itself and the club subculture of the 70s really influenced fashion. So people were wearing clothes that were going to show up in the nightclubs, and that would also be comfortable. So leisure suits were really big then. Platform shoes, both for men and women. So you would see men in like 4-inch heeled platform boots, and that was considered normal. Bell bottoms for women, tube tops, hot pants, which were like, the hot pants are kind of like the precursor to leggings. So they were usually really tight, high-waisted, and metallic, so that way they would show up under the disco lights. And of course, hairstyles, the braids and afros and afro puffs were really big during the disco era, which also coincided with the beginning of the women's lib movement and the Black Power movement in the 70s. So, of course, a disco movement was also reflective of all the social rebellion that was happening in the United States in the 1970s. And, of course, then other hair trends, it was all about the wings and the blowouts and long hair for men. And then, of course, it was all about the sequins, the metallics, you know, pleats and flowy fabrics. So things were either really kind of loose and flowy, so as people were spinning around the dance floor, you would just see these beautiful fabrics spinning around, or it was tight and fitted for comfort and to show off the figure while people were dancing. And of course, if it was tight and fitted, usually then it was more metallic and glitzy. So of course, people really went out to the disco clubs to be noticed, to be socialized, and just to lose themselves in all of this joyous music. Now, disco also was so influential at the time in the late 70s and early 80s that it influenced TV. So we had many dance shows in the 80s that really were centered around the disco subculture and music. So some of those include Solid Gold. For those of you who are old enough to remember or Google it, which was hosted by singer Marilyn McCoo of The Fifth Dimension and Andy Gibb, who of course was the brother of Barry and Maurice and Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees. And he passed away of a cocaine overdose, or heart attack from cocaine use in the mid 80s. So, of course, Solid Gold was known for the Solid Gold dancers, and they were always in these fabulous glitzy bodysuits and wings and boas and fabulous costumes. So they were kind of like the precursor to the Fly Girls and In Living Color years later. So they were doing all this amazing dancing, and they usually had costumes by Bob Mackey, who did Cher's costumes for many years. And then, of course, you had Soul Train with host Don Cornelius, which influenced, Soul Train alone has influenced so much of culture and music, and really was the spot where so many dances found its genesis. Actually, Michael Jackson took the moonwalk from one of the Soul Train dancers, one of the members of Shalimar, who actually was doing the dance on the show. So, and he loved it and adapted it, and then later, quote, invented the moonwalk. But the moonwalk actually came from one of Jody Watley's bandmates from Shalimar. So Soul Train, of course, Rosie Perez, who later went on to choreograph the Fly Girls, which launched Jennifer Lopez's career as a dancer. Rosie Perez was one of the featured dancers, and of course, there's, if you Google it, there's some old footage of Rosie Perez going down the Soul Train line in her hot pants and tube tops. So, you know, if you were going down the Soul Train line, you had to come correct. Okay, so that was where you were going to show your serious dance moves, and it really cut out the pretenders from the fab dancers. So I loved Soul Train when I was a kid and then a young adult. So, of course, and another influential dance show was Dance Fever, which was produced and hosted by Denny Terrio, who actually did all the choreography for John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever and choreographed.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, that's dope.
Yeah. So Denny Terrio then went on to create Dance Fever, which was similar to Solid Gold. So, of course, all these shows were reflecting the music and everything that was popular at the time, and of course it was a platform for all the musical artists to come and perform, and it's a circle, you know, the artists would get inspired by the dancers, and then they would create the music that inspired the dancing. So it was a beautiful circle. And then, of course, let's talk about the influence in fashion. So, you know, it wasn't just in movies, it was in street fashion as well. And back in the 70s, you know, it was all about bold patterns, especially even for men. You know, you had paisleys, you had metallics, you had even the pants were bold printed pants and patterned pants. And nowadays you'd look at that and say, oh my God, what's he wearing? But back then that was just, you know, considered, hey, that's the trend, that's regular. So really one of the lasting legacies about disco was all about coming together, being noticed, noticed in your fashion and being confident and an individual. It was really about your individual style and not being afraid to stand out. But the disco culture also was about bringing people together and finding joy on the dance floor and just escaping. And it was also in the 70s where a lot of the LGBT community went to meet each other and just to feel in a safe environment to meet one another. Of course, this was at a time before all the many gay rights that have been passed through legislation were in existence. So many of the LGBTQ community felt not safe to openly express affection or interest in one of another in public, so they would go to the discos with their female friends to meet one another. So really, the discos just really brought everybody together and launched the careers of so many great artists. And really, too, I feel like the disco genre, all those great hits, they're timeless. So just like you listen to some of Beyonce's music, and you can play that now, you could play it 8 years ago, and it's still going to be relevant. The disco music really was timeless because it didn't really talk about time or things going on right then in the music. So it was meant to be escapism and really just fill people with joy. And so growing up as a kid, the disco genre was really where I first found my love for dance, and then later house music and all the amazing artists. But every club hit you hear right now, from Chris Brown to Neo to David Guetta, even Beyonce, it all had its genesis in disco music. So, and really making club music the phenomenon that it's evolved in today. So we're going to take you out with some more of my favorite disco hits. A little Leo Sayer, You Make Me Feel Like Dancing. We got A Taste of Honey. We got the queen of disco, Donna Summers, who passed away a couple of years ago. Of course, Donna Summers was one of the female icons of music. Another thing that was great about disco music, it was really an empowering genre for women. So, sit back and enjoy all of our great disco hits. And we will be back next week with more Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura and friends, and great content in fashion and music. And until next time, stay strong and stay beautiful, and get your groove on, put your platforms on and your glitter, and jump into the groove. And we'll be back next week.
Just snap your fingers when I'm walking.
Let me tell you, you are no exception to the rule. Get on up on the floor, 'cause we're gonna boogie you, get hoogie till you just can't boogie no more. Boogie, boogie no more. You can't boogie no more. Boogie, boogie no more. Listen to the music. There's no time to waste. Let's get the show on the road. Listen to the music and let your body flow. The sooner we begin, the longer we've got to groove. Listen to the music and let your body move. Now get on up on the floor, 'cause we're gonna boogie you, get hoogie till you just can't boogie no more. Boogie, boogie no more. You can't boogie no more. Boogie no more. Listen to my bass, yeah. Burning to keep my whole body yearning. You got me so confused. Shame. Sometimes I think I'm going insane. Still I wanna stay. In your arms is where I wanna be. I wanna be. In your arms, that's my heart. Shame. My mother says you're playing the game, and what you do to me is a shame. Gonna love you just the same. Mama just don't understand. In your arms is where I wanna be. In your arms, that's my heart. I can't get enough. Ooh, baby, love from that magic touch, love is in my heart. Tearing the rules apart, so why should I be ashamed? Only love can be the pain. If we lose our love, it's a shame. Wouldn't wanna live with the pain. Gonna stay forever. In your arms is where I wanna be. In your arms, that's my heart. Shame. Only love can be the pain. If we lose our love, it's a shame. I wouldn't wanna live with the pain. Oh, it's a shame. Ain't no reason for me to feel this way. Oh,
eternity. Silently, listen to the words I say. I'm not talking just for play. Listen to me, please. Won't you listen to me? Heaven knows it's not the way it should be. And heaven knows it's not the way it could be. Don't you know? There's no need to leave. Heaven knows I never wanna leave you. Heaven knows I only wanna please you. Don't you know? Love is what I need. Down inside, don't get caught with foolish pride. Put all the other things aside. It's only you and